Hi, George Woodward. We've listened to a couple of huge operators talk about some challenges, implementing challenges with creating the network of the future. Today we have a panel of rural operators that I believe are going to talk about some of the things that they have in common with the very, very largest, and then also accentuate some of the unique things that we run into in the rural market space. We've got a fairly diverse, actually very diverse panel, so that should be interesting. I'll start first with a little bit of shameless self-promotion about myself. One of my favorite topics, me. Sorry about that. Also, just from a housekeeping perspective, I was warned twice that we are the last session and we're the only thing between you and the bar. So we'll try to keep it interesting and we'll try to keep it concise. So I've been in rural telecom for 24 years. I started in wireless way before it was cool. Worked with all of the largest carriers, watched all the consolidation. Started with rural carriers and have been active in that space for 24 years. Part of that has been my service on the board of the Rural Wireless Association. I'm treasurer and board member, and I've been that for the last 5 years. Rural Wireless Association is a regulatory and legislative lobbying group that works on behalf of our 57 wireless operators, rural wireless operators, promoting things that are necessary to keep a viable and growing ecosystem for wireless telecom operators. In addition to the 100 or little over or roughly 100 rural operators in the market space out there in total, we also have about 700 rural telephone LEC operators that provide voice, DSL, and video services. So as Grant mentioned, we have about 90% of the geographic landmass. We have a little over 10%, arguably 13–17% of the U.S. population. So we do have some unique challenges, and we'll start kind of with a brief overview of our panel. Then I'm going to ask each one of them to talk a little bit about themselves. But before I go, sitting up here are executives representing companies that have been in business for a few years, as little as a few years, and as much as over 100 years. So a pretty good spread there. I don't know if any of them were founders of the 100. Okay, so much for the comedy routine. Then, as far as coverage area, we have from hundreds of square miles to thousands of square miles to hundreds of thousands of square miles. Brian Woody will probably mention the size of Wyoming and the operating footprint that he has beyond that in multiple states. So I'll start with a real quick Lowell Feldman. First, Lowell is CEO of WorldCall. Lowell operates a pure play greenfield wireless LTE network in the Austin to Houston area. I'll let him talk a little bit more about that. Tim Hightower next to him. Tim is Technical Services Manager for Adams Telephone, operating in Western Illinois. We'll check my geography there. I mentioned Brian Woody, Chief Customer Relations Officer for Union Wireless, who operates all of the state of Wyoming, a huge chunk, probably half of Colorado, Utah. I think he's got pirate cellular going up in Montana. Do you have licenses? Well, we won't talk about that. And then Chad Thoe is Director of Marketing for Brazoria. Brazoria. Okay, they're very good. We go way back. Which is in a really cool area. It's Texas, and that's southwest of Houston.
Just south.
Okay.
About 60 miles south of Houston.
Perfect. So with that, Lowell, I'll let you start out.
Great, thanks. So I'm the newest of the companies, or my company is the newest of the companies.
I got into a rural wireless venture actually when I was teaching at the University of Texas School of Law. I was teaching all about the spectrum auctions to several law students, and the title of the class of that lecture was how would you like to own the color blue? Because at the end of the day we're talking about a really different kind of resource when you have a licensed right to own spectrum. And at the end of that class, some of the students sort of made fun of me and said, well, if it's such a great deal and it's something the government shouldn't be doing because it's too valuable to let go of, which really wasn't what I was saying, but that's how some of them interpret it, why don't you get involved in the auction yourself? And I did, and I ended up acquiring, through WorldCall Inc., 7 licenses, all lower 700 megahertz, B block, which is the license that AT&T is deploying nationwide for its LTE footprint. And it's also known as Band 17. So for any of the vendors out there, anything that can work on AT&T's network can work on our network as well. In Texas, we have about 11,000 square miles. Basically everything between Austin and Houston, south of College Station. We've built out just about 40% of it, which meets the FCC build-out requirements. We also have licenses in all of the U.S. Virgin Islands and a good part of Puerto Rico, though not San Juan. Another thing that I am is I am the chairman of the RWA's roaming committee. And one thing that I'd like to come back to later on as we talk is several of the FCC commissioners and chairmen, they all say the same thing. They say that our country needs a robust and ubiquitous service and they want different providers. Well, we're trying to be a different provider, and as somebody building a brand new network, we aren't there yet to be a ubiquitous provider because of several issues that we have. And I know AT&T made a comment earlier on that people keep trying to use their network. Well, we're some of those people, and our customers in our rural areas are some of those people. And it's really vital that we can use AT&T's network, our Verizon's network, our T-Mobile's network, our Sprint's network, because without that use, we can't have a ubiquitous coverage. And the FCC already passed a rule requiring all of those companies to share their networks under commercially reasonable terms. There's been an issue, however, on trying to get those terms implemented to the degree where those companies can't even agree amongst themselves. For example, last week T-Mobile filed a motion for declaratory ruling on this issue. And one of the things that we're trying to do at RWA is assist the FCC and the policymakers by coming up with really an independent policy through creating a model agreement that's very transparent, and it's something we've been working on for a while, and we hope to launch publicly soon. We would love everybody's support in that endeavor, because without sort of transparent roaming capability, while we can build out the greatest networks, people won't be able to use them, and our customers won't be able to use other networks.
Thank you, Lowell. Just a real quick footnote. When I was throwing out numbers, I don't think I mentioned that we have 40 4G rural LTE operators currently providing commercial service in the rural U.S. today, none of which are connected for interoperability, all of which have to get connected. So that is one of the technical challenges and one of the regulatory and potentially legislative challenges that we have. And as Lowell mentioned, we certainly need everybody to be aware of what the rural operators are confronted with, and we need that kind of support. So, Tim?
Okay, I'm Tim Hightower. I'm the Technical Services Manager for Adams Telephone Co-Operative. As mentioned, we're in Western Illinois. We provide voice, video, and data services for about 6,500 of our customers. The 6,500 customers are a mix of broadband between fiber to the home, DSL, and wireless internet. So I was thinking as AT&T and Verizon were speaking that we're kind of the minor league Class A team compared to the other big hitters up here, where you've got 100 million subscribers and we've got 6,500.
We're a lot more fun at parties, definitely.
So unlike Lowell, we're planning on using our spectrum more for the finite purpose of where we don't have fiber to the home and where DSL doesn't push out far enough. We really see the use of 700 megahertz LTE as a great way to deliver broadband services to really 30 to 40% of our subscribers that we can't see getting fiber to in the next 10 years. So in that aspect, I think 4G has a really good niche for us in that space. Currently, Adams has really kind of two new initiatives going. We've been partnering with a lot of other telcos adjacent to us in Western Illinois, and we bring a lot of volume from a network perspective. We've got a lot of fiber assets. So we've been able to put together a cell tower backhaul business for a tier 2 carrier in that part of the area. We also deliver a layer 2 Metro Ethernet type services for banking, enterprise, manufacturing. I think that's really important for us rural operators that are losing more and more of our traditional landline service. One of our marketing people, they had a real good slide that we were looking at internally the other day, and we can sell a layer 2 circuit to a bank or an enterprise, and that equates to replacing about 70 POTS services at $25 or $30 a month. So that's a real win for us, where you can win one customer and replace a lot of the losses that we're replacing on the POTS line side. The other big initiative besides this layer 2 network that we're putting together is really we're pushing out fiber to the home in a couple of our CLEC markets, really with the intent, even though it's more of a perception than a reality, to offer gigabit speeds over a GPON network. So we're spending a lot of time looking at that business plan. And from there, I think one of the things we're learning is you build a network, you have a simple network, and I think one of the challenges is the complexity of the network inside the customer's home. Mm-hmm. And this is where the CPE space for us is really important. 80% of our 80% of our trouble tickets that come into our office are really the root cause is placed inside that customer's network. So ways to simplify and really be efficient when we're helping our customers have the best experience possible, I think is a really important objective for us to meet.
Super, thanks, Tim. And one of the things that we definitely want to do as a panel is dig into some of the more recent projects that these guys have going. Some of the things that they have planned for the near and the distant future, so that as a vendor and supplier community, you're all aware of how you can help these guys out right now and how you can help them plan for that network of the future. So Brian, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and Union Telephone and Union Wireless?
Sure. I'm Brian Woody. I'm the Chief Customer Relations Officer with Union Wireless, Union Telephone. We operate all of Wyoming, as George said, western Colorado, northeastern Utah, a little bit of Idaho, and a couple counties in Montana. Roughly a couple 100,000 square miles of covered area and not a lot of population. I found out a few years ago from one of our senators that we don't even get classed as rural. We're frontier. When you start you start measuring the square miles per body instead of the bodies per square mile. That's us. So it's a long ways between people, a lot of places to cover and that need to be covered. See, currently we offer traditional landline, my favorite acronym, POT service, in a few towns in Wyoming and
Do you
Colorado.
offer POT service in Colorado now?
Yeah, we do. I think
Just a joke.
I think we got about 6. Yeah, that's a interesting place. We offer wireline service in Colorado. Roughly 30,000 square miles, 6 customers. We tried to
Make a profit out of that.
Yeah. We tried selling it to the local community, and they said no. We tried to give them the dollar, and they said no. We also offer GSM-based services from 2G, 3G on up to LTE today. We've got a pretty good spectrum portfolio throughout those areas, and as well as starting to put in more and more fiber. Just because there's not a lot in those areas, it's so far between. There's the great networks that go through, but none of them stop. So it's where we can pick it up and go.
Okay. Thanks, Brian. Chad, can you tell us a little bit?
Yeah, Chad Thoe, Marketing Director for Brazoria Telephone Company, and as George mentioned, we're just due south of Houston, about 60 miles south of Houston, so right on the coast. So we get all the heat that Dallas does too, but we get all the humidity too. So I think I can walk 20 blocks and not sweat up here. I go home and I wake up and I sweat. So looking forward to going back. But yeah, and really. We're on the smaller end. We're closer to the hundreds of miles of service territory, but similar to what these guys are also doing, we offer internet, phone, and TV to our customers. We've got we're less than 5,000 customers. We've been in business for 65 years, and we really are. We're the technology provider in the area, and it's all about relationships with us. I mean, we really try to take care of our customers, and so that a little bit about the company. As George mentioned, the challenges that we face, obviously our biggest goal right now is just to enhance our services, and really decide what additional revenue streams we really want to tackle. Everyone knows that the business model is changing for the independent telcos. So how do we move forward? And really, for the vendors, what that means to you guys, I think, is this. The ears are open. I mean, we might not have the numbers of AT&T, don't have the numbers of Verizon, et cetera, but, it was mentioned earlier that there's 700, independent companies out there, and we're all a community together, and so word of mouth, obviously, there's a trust factor there. But also, hey, ears are open. We've got, 1, 2, 3 people in it, every other day pitching to us on, additional revenue streams. And so the challenge is obviously, how do we do that? How do we formulate a plan and move forward with it? But, from a marketing standpoint, A, how do we portray that to our customers? But B, we better do a pretty dang good job of doing it because of what I just mentioned earlier was that trust with our customers. And so, obviously, on the flip side, there's a lot of opportunities for us, additional revenue, opportunities for you guys. And so I would say that's the biggest challenge for us is finding, obviously the model has changed, but how's it going to change for us and how are we going to jump on board? So,
Thanks, Chad. So what we've got is a representation of what is an entire rural ecosystem up here, facing identical challenges to the large carriers, but with very, very, very unique challenges. When you listen to Brian and talk about some of those numbers, I have to keep from starting to tear up at how challenging it is to provide that out. Yet, Each one of these guys, each one of their companies are offering the latest and most sophisticated technology available. As Chad just mentioned, while doing that, they're listening to and entertaining thoughts, opportunities, and suggestions from the vendor and supplier partner communities. So with that, I'll add one more piece. Outside of Lowell's operation, these are multi-play opportunities from the landline, the wireless, the video, and so on. And so ideas and opportunities to consolidate and to pull together different pieces, whether it's a cable piece or a broadband wireless, a DSL integrated with a Wi-Fi, or billing system integration opportunities across all of their businesses, customer service consolidation and things like that, are all things that they're challenged with today. So actually I'm gonna throw it out to Tim and ask you to talk a little bit about some of those multi-play and consolidation opportunities. What are some of the projects that you've had recently that you've overcome challenges, and specifically areas where suppliers excelled?
For us, really, probably the most, the best example of a project is really our 4G. We're just in the process of rolling that out. I think we have to be very open with the needs that are specific to us. I think, again, trying to scale this group up here compared to the bigger people in the room, I think for us it's really important. Like our CapEx for Adams barely reaches 7 figures across all of our industry, or all of our technologies, whether it's wireless, copper, fiber, everything that we do. It's about our CapEx is about $1 million. So for us, I think one of the things I think the last 3 big projects we've done, we really go to the vendors and look at a true 5-year total cost of ownership.
Okay.
And that helps with our CEO, with our board of directors. You know, we want to be right. So it's just not the initial CapEx we're looking at. It's the operating expense, which is so key. And just with such a small CapEx, comparatively, I think, you know, being wrong up front is not a good way to start a business. So I think the personal relationship between us and the vendors, them knowing our business, the face-to-face meetings, I think is key, and something you know, that's probably changed to the better in the last few years.
And Lowell, I'm not going to forget about you, because my heart is really close to LTE and roaming and interoperability. But I'm going to throw one back to Chad real quick. Chad, you're Director of Marketing, sitting with arguably slightly technical guys, even though Brian doesn't carry a technical title. I looked at his bio, and I think there's a degree in engineering in there. But just purely from a marketing perspective, what are some of the challenges that you've faced, some of the projects that you've recently implemented, and some of the things that you can throw back to the community?
Yeah, well, yeah, obviously marketing kind of sticks out at a conference like this. But in my defense, I have a little nerd in me because my background and my degree's in accounting, so that counts as a kind of nerd, right? We
missed that. We would have not allowed you on the panel.
Well, you know, only my inner circle only knows that. But no, from a marketing standpoint, I mean, obviously, it's kind of tricky with us because yes, we are in a very rural area, but we're literally obviously 60 miles, you know, due south of, you know, the 4th largest city in the country. But we have a lot of you know, cities and towns around us that have populations of, you know, 30,000 people, and so. Probably the biggest challenge for us is, and off the top of my head, for example, we rolled out a new speed package. And our customers, and laugh if you want, but our customers can now enjoy 12 meg, right, service. And so it was, from a marketing standpoint, it was really tricky to be excited about the service that really, has not been available in our service area. But, there's people that literally have neighbors that they're going, you have access to what now? 12 meg, where the other companies in the area are allowed to, or have the resources and have the the capital to throw the investments at 50, 100 meg, whatever it may be. So the trickiest part is how to package that. From a marketing perspective, and really kind of be that sexy pick. Obviously, and Vish hit on it earlier of, hey, well, he's like, why am I happy spending money at Whole Foods? I know I'm paying more. Where we're the opposite, where we understand our customers really. We're the incumbent broadband company in the area, so we know our customers that are in our service market don't really have an option as far as internet is concerned, but we really do want them to value our service, and we want them to value, so when they do pay that bill online or scratch that check, we want them to feel pretty good about it. So from a marketing perspective, that's been our toughest issue, is how to package that and how to really, even if we're not even if we wouldn't be the sexiest pick, just really kind of, again, being that, working on the trust factor and being the company of choice.
And that's a very, very important point. We don't want to lose sight of, again, as a supplier group, we're the experts. You all are you're those experts in the things that you're offering, and taking that over and above just the technological or technology sexiness, but how to position it, helping the carriers understand how to roll that out, how to make that presented in its best light. Now, we'll go from that, Lowell. You've got 4G LTE running at the 700 meg, operating off of a hosted core with RAN from Ericsson. We saw a little bit of that from Vish. Tell us a little bit about your network and the cool things that you offer, and then throw in some challenges that you faced and how the supplier group has helped out.
Well, so our network really is, in the areas that we're building it out, probably the best network in the area.
You bragger.
Well, it's fiber-based, so we have fiber to most of our towers. We put in our towers. In a lot of ways, we built just a fantastic sandbox that can be tested. And we were talking earlier about how a lot of the, Brian and I were talking earlier about how a lot of the vendors who manufacture things for AT&T and Verizon and Sprint, if they would just come up with a generic version, or if they wanted to actually get something approved faster than going through the processes with giants, you can come into our neighborhood and we'd be happy to do it, because we lack the ability to have a diversity of devices. In fact, the way that they're built, theoretically the FCC passed all these rules that things are supposed to be unlocked, and we know that even if you get an unlock code and you unlock it, it doesn't mean it's open and can be used. And these are for new devices. These are from Samsung Galaxies, and we'll pick on Google Nexus 7s. They have things put into their framework and in their operating system to where, as a practical matter, we can't use them. And they're by design at the request of certain large carriers, which is great for them managing their network. But they don't have to be in every device. When you're building those devices, you can build some generic. And you've got over 50,000 customers, and if you project there's about 1 million people in our LTE spectrum area, when you put us together, we're a viable customer base. But if we never really get a response from the vendor community, this is a challenge that hopefully can be overcome. If you all could print a generic brand every time you print the non-generic custom brand, right? You see it the same way? You've been operating with it for a while. You have 60,000 customers.
Yeah. Well, it ties into, and it's not really just the software loads, but it's as far as extra software, it's more of how the device actually functions. So, depending on the MMS stack, the SMS stack, and those other different pieces in the device and how it behaves to other networks. It's a challenge you want to put it out there, your customers ask for it, beg for it. So if you put it out there, then you're increasing dissatisfaction with your own customers because now they've got this really cool device that doesn't work as well because they're on your network. And vice versa. I think the same thing happens with their customers on our networks because some of that optimization is done specifically to their network and how it's designed. How could another way that vendors could help out is, we don't know what we don't know. Sharing that knowledge of this is how one of the other vendors' network is set up, and you might want to put this in or buy that license to turn it on so that it can be a more seamless transition for their customers as well as our own customers.
Yep. And like for real world example, Google came out with the Nexus 7 LTE. It works on my network fantastic. But because we work in AT&T's operating band 17, they jiggered the operating system to where just AT&T requested this. I don't think Verizon or Sprint did. But if you try to use the hotspot, which in a rural area, if somebody's going to buy a device, it's got to be a hotspot and serve the other devices, or it's not any good, they're not going to afford it. The hotspot function doesn't work. And that's okay for AT&T to determine that for all of its customers. But you can't even get in touch with Google to actually acknowledge that they have an issue and that they don't have a device that doesn't turn itself off. Similar devices that AT&T primes, well, technically they all work on our network. You can't get a refurb device or a different device to a user where you program it once and then it automatically does a download after a week, re-upgrades and looks for AT&T and turns off your service. Well, it may be an unlocked device, but an unlocked device that has to be reprogrammed every week is not a device that you can sell to a customer. And those are all things that are sort of baked into the framework and operating system of the CPE and the ecosystem that's being created. And yes, y'all have to serve the master, AT&T and Verizon, but again, make a very bland version for us. And all of us together, I think, are a viable market.
So Chris talked about the challenges. It was interesting to open, the way he opened up and started pointing out specific pain points, the massive explosion in data use and on and on and on. So these guys have those exact same challenges, and I think what they're looking to this group for are those kinds of ideas. When Brian mentioned, we don't know what we don't know, we definitely know of some of the things that we don't know, and they're scary enough, but the unknown is even scarier. And that's, again, what this group can bring to the 700 members of the community and of the rural operating community, and certainly to these panelists specifically.